Good afternoon and welcome to Between Two Teapots. We are here today with Charles and Laurie Dawson. Why don't you guys say hi?
Hi.
Hello.
Afternoon. Oh, got to turn off the audio on that one. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead and say hi. Sorry about that. I got to still working things out. But it's all good.
Okay.
But yeah, go ahead and give you guys a quick introduction. Let everybody know who you guys are. I can fill in the details if you guys miss anything.
Yeah, well, we're Charles and Laurie Dawson. We live near the Canadian border north of Seattle, and we're tea nerds in kind of a tea desert. There aren't a lot of tea businesses in our area, but we're between two kind of tea meccas of Vancouver, BC and Seattle. And we do a lot of tea evangelism and education for this area to try to bolster the tea community. So we've spent the last almost 20 years trying to give people the tea experiences that we love, mostly Chinese tea, but really all world tea cultures. We teach just about everything. And we run tea clubs. We're involved with the Northwest Tea Festival. It goes on and on. We're just anything we can do involved with tea, we do.
Yeah, and we met you guys at the Northwest Tea Festival in 2013, maybe 2012.
Yep, right.
You guys were teaching an I Ching class, and I took your I Ching class, and I got a free I Ching teapot for attending the class. And that's how we met. And now we run a business and do all sorts of stuff. We only get a chance to see you guys like once or twice a year at festivals or like an event or something like that. But it's always enjoyable. You guys are local, but still just far enough away that we don't see you guys every week or something like that. But so let me tell everybody what we're drinking. So I sent them. We're gonna have some fun today. We have fun every day, but we're going to. We sent you guys some of our tea, and then you guys sent us some interesting tea from your collection that is a mystery tea to me. I don't know what it is. But yeah, so we're gonna start off with these little tea balls. So this is a Hekai Elemental, and we kind of used a fun, nerdy little infographic that kind of looks like the periodic table of the elements on there. Each one's kind of like got fun little detailed information about the tea regions and whatnot. And you guys have one of those there as well, I take it?
Yes. And I have to tell you, your papers make the best collage cards. I do some scrapbooking and card making.
Oh, nice.
I love your paper. Yeah.
It's really nice. It's really nice paper. There's a lot of different grades of paper from the paper manufacturers that we work with in China. And so it's kind of fun because you can just kind of like walk through their shop and they just have stacks and stacks and stacks of different paper, and you can pull it out and feel it. And some of it's thinner and some of it has like gold threads like all pressed into it. Those must be for the Laobanjiang cakes. It's the real high end stuff. Well, let's talk about teaware for a minute as we're getting this started. What are you guys? What teapot are you guys brewing in today?
Well, this one we decided to take one out from a collection of I Ching, which was a dragon-headed Zisha pot that we bought a decade or so ago, and I can't even remember where. But it's just a little larger than normal, which is good for these Dragon Ball type pu'er balls, because there's a lot of leaf compacted into them.
There's a lot of leaf. I mean, it's 8 grams, but that will very quickly fill up anything. I've tried it a handful of times, like brewing it in like little tiny teapots. Like you take one of these and brew a ball in there, and like you could get 50 steeps out of it, and you'd still pull out a big chunk of tea. Somebody made a comment about the cabinet behind you. It's a very nice cabinet. What can you tell us about your cabinet behind you? Does it have tea in it?
We love Chinese apothecary cabinets, and for years we've been looking. We like to do estate auctions. Live estate auctions were did before COVID, and we looked for years, and occasionally we came across an Asian art auction where they would have a gigantic antique apothecary cabinet, and it would cost $5,000-$6,000. Of course, we're not going to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
Finally, ran across one in an auction in Stanwood where they had this. That was just a nice little Chinese full of tea drawers, big cabinet, great for sorting out. So we have rows for white, a row for green, a column for
these 3 dedicated to Crimson Lotus.
And that's just one of our Crimson Lotus stashes.
Yes.
On and on. And ironically, like the week before, we had found another thing that we were looking for. Since we couldn't find a Chinese apothecary cabinet of this size, we found an old apartment mailboxes, a box of them, with the keys in each one.
Oh wow.
And we our teas in each of those. And then, of course, the week after we found this, and it's like, okay, that's replacing. This is better, more in style. And then, ironically, about 6 months after this, we did get one of those full-size antique apothecary cabinets that's in our living room, where we store some of the bigger stuff, including some of your mini cakes from Crimson Lotus and many other things for aging. And it's stacked nearly to the ceiling now with piles of tongs on top of it.
Tongs on tongs. Yeah, you guys are the original,
like our Chinese antique.
Original Tong People Club. Yeah. So, is there any space in your house that isn't tea or teaware related at this point in time?
The bathroom.
Our son's bedroom, because he does not drink tea, but we love him anyway.
But literally every room in the house has some tea in it.
Yeah, I am. You guys, you may think they're underselling it a little bit, but you guys would be surprised. They have an incredible collection of tea and teaware. It's awesome. Yeah, anytime we've had tea with them, they've always brought over something to try from their collection, and it's pretty cool. So what are your brewing tricks for tea balls like this?
Extra hot to begin with to break them apart.
Yeah.
And then it depends on the material, whether it really likes the hot flash steeps or whether it wants something a little longer.
Yeah, I like to start off with a nice long wash. So just to kind of let it soak up a little bit, and then usually I let it actually sit for a little bit. This is just my method. Let it sit for a little bit, and it kind of expands. So since I haven't done that yet, I'm a little bit behind you guys on the steeps.
No worries.
No worries. What I usually do, especially with balls, is I'll do the rinse, and then I'll do a steep, and then allow it to just sit after the first steep, so we can kind of get an idea what the flavor of the tea is going to be. And that allows it time to open up. So then when we do the next brew, then it usually opens up fairly well. So.
Have you guys had any of our Hekai material before? I can't remember.
I believe not these particular balls.
Yeah. Yeah, I like Hekai a lot. It was a bit of a challenge. I mean, you guys have quite the collection, a little bit of everything, and so Lamo and I were sitting there. I'm like, what are we gonna send them? Like, I don't know. I started having a little panic attack. We gotta send them something really good.
It's sort of new for us because we are all about education, which means educating ourselves. So we're constantly buying samples and teas from new places, and as you said, we're kind of a little bit overstocked here. What you don't see hanging above us are hooks with bags of mouth shot hanging in them, aging. We decided, hey, that would be a great place to get lots of airflow.
Nice.
We have now taking some of cakes, and we are hanging them on the wall using antique collector's tea plate hanger.
Right back there. I don't know if you can.
Nice. Yeah, no, I can't. I can't see it back there. It's off camera.
Hanger.
That's actually pretty cool. That's a smart way to do it while they're still round, at least.
Exactly.
Start drinking halfway through it. Those look that's a pretty cool idea. Somebody wanted to know about whether you're worried about the wood aromas from the cabinets getting into the tea.
That is absolutely one key thing whenever we buy any Chinese tea furniture, chests that we store in, is smell. Do they smell like varnish or petroleum or even just heavy wood smell? And surprisingly, if you find something that's old enough, they really have little to no smell at all.
Okay.
So these cabinets behind big antique one that's probably 400 or 500 years old in the living room is, it's perfect. There's no smell at all.
Well, I'm looking
Sometimes,
forward to this
tea. Some teas, so having a aromatic wood chest for certain kinds of aging might be nice.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys don't concern yourself much with temperature, humidity, any of that stuff, or do you have pu-erh things set up?
We haven't needed to do pu-erh since we're kind of experimenting all the time.
Yeah.
We have hygrometers in every cabinet, every room, and note which areas have higher humidity, lower humidity, and then we stack representative tea cakes in each area and just see how do they change over the years.
Nice.
Living in part of Washington State, there's enough humidity that it's pretty decent. We have some areas of the house where it stays around 60-70%, and some areas where it's
Wow.
around 40-50%.
Wow. Do you find that is it what's the difference? Is it upstairs, downstairs, north, south, west,
Different
east?
parts of the house. It just, we have a concrete tile roof and we have sun directly on one side, so it varies.
Okay.
Just the different parts of the house.
April in chat wants us to describe the aroma of the tea that we're drinking. What are you guys getting from this one?
This is really more about the taste than the aroma. The aroma is very mild. The taste is so clean on this. It's clear notes of tea. There isn't strong weediness. There isn't strong dry grass taste. It's just a really nice, clear, savory note.
But if you take the time to really smell it, there's a really nice crisp green aroma there, but you kind of have to wait for it to be lulled out a little bit.
Yeah, Hekai's an interesting place because Hekai's in Bulong, and Bulong has like a really strong, tradition of just mega powerful teas. And you could, walk from Hekai to Lao Banjiang and Lao Mana, in a day. I mean, it's just, it's maybe only a couple miles as the crow flies. It's hard to actually drive around to there. But for something that's like so close to like these other like mega pu'er powerhouses, it's Hekai is surprisingly gentle, but I get that that kind of like clean, clear aspect. Some of the aroma that I'm getting from this is almost oolongish in a way. It does have a little bit of a kind of like a citrus note, but it's very bright, but it's not overstated like you said. It's easily one of my favorite areas, and it's actually where you guys. Well, I think I told you guys the. Here, let me just mute my phone here real quick. Sorry about that. I think I told you guys the King Cobra story, right? This is the same. This is the same garden. For people who didn't who haven't read the story, I think it's still on our site. You can go to the Danger Zone cake, but basically the guide who was taking us through Hekai that day in these old growth gardens, she ran right into a giant king cobra that stood up right and looked her right in the face, and I didn't see her see that, and so all I saw her was just running past me screaming, and I couldn't figure out what it was, and so thankfully I did not run into the king cobra myself, but it was there, and so I've been super excited about this material ever since. It's a king cobra tea or so.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you guys actually get started in tea? What was your start? What was the impetus of all of this?
Well, I'm an herbalist by trade.
Okay.
So I started years ago outside in the garden. Also some southern roots. So, the 2-gallon glass jar with the Lipton tea bags. Oh, yeah. But I've come very far.
Yeah.
That trained me well. So coming from that, and a friend of ours, Diane, knew I drink tea, and then invited Chuck to a tea.
Yeah, our friend Diane said, "Hey, there's this tea tasting in Seattle, a Chinese tea tasting. Do you want to come?" Okay, well, I drink occasionally tea at the office, a bag of Earl Grey or some such. Okay, it's okay, but
so this would have been in the 90s then, or?
I'm sorry?
This would have been like in the 90s, so like 20 plus years ago? Late 90s? Okay.
2000s, and the modern tea scene wasn't around yet. So when she said, let's go to a Chinese tea tasting, the first thing I pictured was, okay, we're going to go to a Chinese restaurant. Maybe an elderly Chinese lady will be serving us something out of a pot. Okay. Yeah. Instead, it was this ultra-modern steel and glass tea shop on Capitol Hill, and the person behind the counter who was doing the serving wasn't a little old Chinese lady. It was this young, just past college age guy, tall, skinny, frizzy hair, thick glasses, and a manic disposition, totally passionate about the tea. And he was serving high mountain Taiwanese oolongs. And that was as far from my tea experience as I could possibly imagine.
Wow.
And it just, blew my mind. It was like, tea can be this?
It's
Okay, this
very,
is great.
It's very Seattle.
Very Seattle. And we were drinking these small cups, and we had 3 cups of 4 different teas. And I went back and told Laurie, I had 12 cups of tea. I drank so much tea. And now, of course, we drink twice as much as that before breakfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was so excited. He was like, you can't drink tea. I'm like, I drink tea. He goes, no, real tea.
It's real tea.
But it boomed with the Taiwanese tea scene, and that was the first big fad. And thanks to this person, Brett Boynton, who introduced us, his enthusiasm was so infectious.
Oh, that was Brett.
That was Brett.
Yeah,
he was the one who introduced us.
Now I have a visual for the description. That's awesome.
Yes,
exactly. He had so much energy and just blew me away. But then we started going to Chinese tea shops in the Vancouver area, specifically Richmond, and I mean, literally went sometimes twice a month for years up there to different tea shops, sitting down with the tea owners, drinking for hours and hours and hours, which unfortunately bored my son to tears, which is why he's no longer involved in tea. And got this love of doing the Chinese tea tasting experience. And that's what we wanted to share with people, and started doing the tea educations and tea clubs, where we did sit down, have tea with us, and experience stuff.
And we really lucked out. We met some just amazing people to begin with.
Yeah. So for people who are watching who don't understand the geography of the Pacific Northwest, the Vancouver Richmond area is right on the border of Washington and Canada, and it's probably the epicenter of Canadian Chinese tea culture, largely because that was where most people moved from Hong Kong who had British citizenship after Hong Kong got transferred back to China in the late 90s. Everyone that didn't want to be a part of that, they had dual citizenship. They could just move to Canada, and so they all moved to Canada, and they nearly almost all moved to the Vancouver Richmond area, and they brought all of their aged teas with them. There's a lot of really, really amazing tea collections available, hidden in back rooms in the Vancouver Richmond area. So that's go ahead.
I was going to say, one of our favorite places, we always recommend people going there, and we say, and while you're there, ask to use the bathroom. Because the shop is this really tiny, small space, maybe, 15 by 15 feet. I mean, it's not very big at all. But if you walk back to the back room, it goes through his back storage area. And the first time I walked back there, I kind of stopped and just stared, because even the steps up to the second story in his storage room had bricks of cake stuffed everywhere. Every inch had tea.
We didn't realize this tiny tea shop wasn't just a tea shop. What they called their tea shop was actually their tasting room for their business. They were a wholesaler, and they had a warehouse behind the shop. So you would walk through their warehouse and stacked floor to ceiling with aging pu'ers and giant boxes. And you'd go there 6 months later, it'd be empty. He would have sold it all. And then we come 6 months later, shipping containers in, stacked to the ceiling again. The amazing volume on that, and amazing teas as well.
Yeah, it sounds like some of the tea markets in Kunming, where the tea is just stacked in every possible corner. And we'd buy some of that stuff, and people were like, "Hey, how is this stored?" And I'm like, "Yeah, you might not want to know." I mean, it's just how they do it over there. I mean, just stacks anywhere, everywhere. We certainly try to make our tea storage area a little bit more presentable, but it's certainly not the norm or the tradition over there. So Oolong Owl wants to know the progress and status of your DIY tea stuffed orange pomelo things. Yeah, I got one here to show you guys. So if people in chat don't know,
I have stuffed something.
So this is one that you guys did. This is a silver needle white tea and a mandarin. And you guys ate the mandarins yourselves. Is that right?
Actually, I took the mandarin meat and I made a mandarin jam.
There's another one. It's a satsuma with pu'er in it.
And that should be studded with cloves as well.
Oh, that one was clove studded. Now here's the most interesting one. People might be. So this is a baked pu'er stuffed blueberries. So this is show pu'er that you guys stuffed into blueberries. What's going on with this? What can you tell us about that?
Blueberry farms around us,
Yes.
incredible giant blueberries, and we had a particularly great batch last year. We brought them home, and we were.
And somebody made the joke of, "Why don't you stuff these?" So I did.
Yep.
Never make a joke with the Dawsons. That's what you learn. Never make a joke with Laurie, and she will make it happen.
Yeah, we've done pomelos, and we've done limes and lemons, and then oranges, and then the satsumas and mandarins were new this year. I did try watermelon this year. I have to say that was probably one of my only experiments that didn't quite work. The watermelon was just too juicy, so I ended up having to take the tea out to really dry it.
Yeah.
And it came across with a nice subtle flavor, but the clove studded mandarins and satsumas, very happy
surprisingly good.
Interesting. Michelle in chat wants to know if you guys would ever be interested in leading tea tasting tours through Canada, because they would join in. Michelle's also a local, but she married and moved to Kentucky. So.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, the border is still closed right now, but once it's open and people are safe, we have met people up there and said, hey, let's walk around to all of our favorite tea places, because Richmond has I'm not sure if they still call it the Golden Rectangle, where they have a dense area of shops. They're ultra modern Aberdeen Center. You have 4 stories, Asian style mall, beautiful, and many malls around it. And there are probably at least a dozen world-class tea shops just within walking distance, hidden in niches and crannies, and they're all most of them are family. And you just got to walk them and find them.
I stopped there for the dim sum. Yeah. That's pretty cool. We've not actually spent much time at the tea shops there. Usually, because when we're going up there, we've got just kind of like a different focus on stuff. We did like the first year when we went to the Vancouver Tea Festival, but I have not spent a lot of time digging around the Richmond tea shops. So we usually go up there, and dim sum is our focus. Dim sum and poutine. That's what. I don't know. I love dim sum a lot, and so does Lamo. So we're usually pretty excited to go and get some of that. Michelle says she's totally gonna meet you guys in Canada one day. All right, Michelle. Michelle's the one who made this cute little turtle tea pet for us. So she does a lot of cool stuff. You've probably seen her at the tea festivals. I think Michelle used to get around to the tea festivals back in the day. She's maybe taken some classes and stuff. So you guys at the Northwest. So you're on the board of the Northwest Tea Festival now, and you have been for a few years. So you guys are very active in the planning and stuff on that. And I was on the board for a little while as well. So we used to have meetings together, but it's just a little bit more difficult trying to be in China and do meetings and all that stuff. But so what's it like running a big tea festival like the Northwest Tea Festival? How much work does that actually involve?
We don't run it. We're
on the planning committee, and we're specifically on the planning committee. So we're trying to figure out how to get people. But we have these group meetings. There's a lot of people involved in planning it.
Oh yeah.
Of course, when it actually running, all the volunteers, hundreds of volunteers and such. It's amazing the number of people who are involved in the tea festival itself. But the planning process is nearly a full year of planning. We start almost right after the last one, and then we start ramping up, contacting people, figuring out, okay, what's their space? What can we do? How many vendors? Contact the vendors. Who can we get to do presentations on the stages, the workshops, the tastings?
The tea bar now.
The tea bar.
Yeah.
It goes on and on and on. And so we have lots of people involved. And it's a lot of work.
We're just one very small cog.
It's a big tea festival. And in a normal year when we have a full schedule, there are, I don't know how many dozen people actually involved with doing workshops and presentations and stage presentations, and getting all those people organized is a big chore.
Yeah, no, it is. It's a year long thing. It takes. I mean, you can't. There's a whole pile of things that have to get done in a given year to make everything work. So the last tea festival, like what were the final numbers? How many people came to it? So that was the 2019 one because 2020 was canceled. But how many people came to the 2019 one?
We did have record numbers. I want to say it was something like 3,000 people.
It was 32 or 3,400, I thought.
Okay, but it was good. We beat what we expected. Did very well. Everyone was happy. The vendors were doing quite well. And of course, every single slot for the presentations and workshops was full early on. And then the place was packed. It was a great experience.
There was a lot of workshops. That's one of the things that I don't get to partake in or enjoy when I'm doing the when I have a booth, because when I've got a booth, people want to come in and they want to have tea, and I want to like sell and things, and if I just don't have time to be like, hey, I'm going to stop for a couple hours and go watch classes anymore. But the first year we did, because we didn't have a booth. We were just kind of we were volunteers, and we were just kind of like there to learn. So give people some ideas of like what sort of classes were available at the last one.
Well, the last one we did a workshop on samovar tea.
Okay.
So we brought our samovar and taught people how to make the tea and how to drink it, and everybody got to go home with a little goodie bag from it. So that was fun.
People like goodie bags.
Oh, it was so full of people. I mean, we even had, there's, the future and challenges of the growing tea markets. Kevin Gascoigne came with a preview of his documentary that the CBC had created on him doing tea. And that was,
And we always have wonderful presenters, Thomas Shue and Josephine and Norwood Pratt, and
a lot of the vendors like to do presentations, but
we did. I think I did presentations or tastings like maybe the first year, and then like after that, like Lama came back. She's like, every time you're not in the booth is empty, and I'm like, oh, okay. she's very practical about the numbers. She's like, no more classes. We need people in the booth. I just thought that was pretty funny.
I'm imagining. It always seems to have a waiting line of people when you sit down, because you have such a visual presence there. The first year you were there and you were unloading your big burl tea desk. It's like, who brings a big burl tea desk to a tea festival? This is great. And of course, it's like a magnet. Everyone's going, look at that. And every lines of people.
It's me. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, that's me. Thankfully, like my big burl tea table is remarkably light. Just two people can very easily carry it. And boy, I tell you what, like that first year, I just we did not know how to prep for a festival. We did not know how to like set up our booth. We didn't know how to like optimize what products to sell and what products to not do. And so we brought everything, like literally everything that we had possible to sell. And it took us so long to get the booth set up, and it took us so long to tear the booth down. It was like, oh man, that was just that was a nightmare. We've learned how to optimize things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but Ro in chat, he's also a local Linwood guy, lives just down the street from us here. He wants to know if you guys do online classes.
So funny story, we moved up here 20 years ago, and there still isn't any cable or fiber laid down for DSL where we live. So
we have no true broadband in our area.
We have no true broadband in our area. So what we're actually using today was a phone company in our area recently upgraded, and we were able to finally get enough oomph to our phones so we could do online stuff.
Yeah, in fact, when I messaged you guys about doing like Between Two Teapots like a couple months ago, you're like, well, funny thing, like we literally just got enough bandwidth to be able to do like a Zoom stream. And I'm like, oh, wow, well, let's give it a try. And so we did like a test that night, and that was like the very first test stream. And so there's there's a couple little there's some little glitchiness in the audio and stuff, but people are totally fine. So that's that would make it a little bit more difficult to participate in the online stuff if your bandwidth is not as big. But so we'll tell people what you do as far as education currently that isn't tied to online stuff then.
Currently, it's kind of hard to. We're all about the experience. We want to be sharing tea. We want to see people's faces as they taste and talk and interact. So, there are We have tried mailing out experience boxes.
Mhm.
We
Okay.
did a tea bar at a box where we said, here are some teas from our collections, some write-ups on them. But we really couldn't do the interactive portion that we want. We're really hoping that things get safe enough soon. We can have at least small group meetings, like let's meet up in a park somewhere. Anyone who shows up, let's do some small sessions there. That's before we can do our bigger tea club type gatherings
Mhm.
or festival gatherings where it really gets going.
So one thing we tried to focus on when COVID started, and we ended up canceling all of our festivals last year, which you don't realize how much tea that involves for us. I'm
Oh, right, because you guys would have ordered all of that tea, right? So you guys would have had classes planned, and you would have like pre-ordered all the tea that you needed for that class, and then the classes are gone. And man, did you guys have to just drink it all yourself?
teaware. Well, one thing we did was we decided we didn't want especially the good fresh teas to go to waste. So through our Wacom Tea Facebook group, and we were doing like these weird monthly things like, okay, here's a quiz, and the top 3 answers will get a package of tea mailed out to them.
Okay.
We did for Halloween, I did children's stickers on packaging. I said, okay, name what tea is in this package.
What tea goes with a ghost? What tea goes with a black cat?
Exactly. And I'll send out 3 packages to 3 winners, and
excuses just to get tea out there and people still thinking tea, having fun with tea, and digging into our stash a little bit. Because our biggest opportunity to get rid of all this tea, because again, we're constantly trying to teach ourselves, so we're constantly doing sample orders from all over the internet and anybody we can normally see in person. So we have a lot of tea. We have hundreds of types of tea here, hundreds. And our big way to get rid of it is at the Northwest Tea Festival. We're running the tea bar and we're using our own personal stash, and we're literally serving thousands of cups over the weekend, doing these 10-minute sessions where, hey, let's brew a tea for 10 minutes, maybe do it a couple times, go to another tea, and we'll whip through the tea like that.
So if you guys, for people in chat who don't know what the Northwest Festival tea bar is, it's a bar that you saddle up to, and Charles and Laurie are behind it, and they just brew tea all day long, and you can just sit down and drink whatever they're brewing, and you brew something for like 10 or 15 minutes, and then switch to something else, and then just
right. Well, we try to be educational, so it's like, here's 2 specialties that we're comparing for a certain reason, and we'll do a quick little lecture rapidly. We're constantly on stage, high pace, in front of people, like 10 people at the bar at the time. Do 2 or 3 minutes with this group. They go, another group of 10 people come up. We do the same thing until the tea is a little bit played out. Switch to another topic, and change topics. So we're never repeating topic all weekend long. Every 15 minutes, something new.
Yeah. So if people don't, people didn't realize that you get tons of free tea at a tea festival. You do get tons of free tea at a tea festival. So if you're in the Northwest and you've not had a chance to go to the Northwest Tea Festival, shame on you. Get down there. But I guess this year we're not doing it either, or it's still
a little up in the air. There's still discussions going on.
It's really hard to just buckle down and make firm commitments on stuff when it's entirely nebulous. Speaking of, I mean, you guys were also active in the Bellingham Tea Festival as well, right? Were you guys working on planning for that?
Well, we had to cancel for last year.
Yeah, right.
Because it was originally supposed to be in May. Just because of where things are at right now.
Again, kind of have to wait. The problem with any festival this year, even if there's enough people vaccinated and people interested in going, will there be enough people that are interested in going to a crowded festival to make the festival financially worthwhile, or will it, have problems financially because of that?
I mean, including vendors.
Very much so.
Yeah, no, that's a tough one, because there's the side of me which is like, man, I totally want to do it. Then there's the other side. It's just like, but I don't really want to get the COVID. I don't know. So I kind of go back and forth on that. For us, the video tea tastings have really have actually been remarkably therapeutic. Like more than I really would have thought. I'm so used to just like doing tea and brewing tea for people all the time, and then to like not have that for half a year or more. I was like, Lama, we got to start doing live streams. She's like, what are you talking about? Finally, it worked out. These have actually been a ton of fun. In fact, the first one that we did was with Jake Knapp. I mean, that's he's a relative local guy. He lives just west of you guys over there. So he's You guys are probably more than familiar with him. He was working on the Bellingham Tea Festival as well. If people haven't noticed this subtle trend in between two teapots, it's just all my favorite people. just happens to be a lot of local tea people that I've met over the years, and it's fun though. It's a lot of fun. It's really exciting to do these. I enjoy them. I enjoy them a lot.
You got to screen for a moment to get water.
Yeah, I got to get a little bit more water here as well. Let me show people what else you've got for us, and let people start thinking about it. Let's see. So, Charles and Laurie shipped me 3 mystery teas. We've got number 1 right here. Number 1, I'm going to assume is a pu'er. And we've got number 2, which also seems to be like a pu'er. And then we've got a nice little foil wrapped bag, which I'm going to guess is not pu'er. Is that right?
Well, I'll give you a hint. 1 of the 3 is pu'er.
Oh, 1 of the 3 is pu'er. Oh my! All right. Let's see here. Okay, then maybe interesting. Interesting.
From the depths of
but
our
we tried to
stash.
find ones that we thought would appeal to your palate, even though you're very pu'er-centric.
Interesting. All right. So if you guys are watching in chat, let me know which one you think what you think I should drink when the time comes to it. We got 3 options here. We got 1. There we go. Which is it is compressed. This is a compressed tea. We'll just say it's compressed. This is number 2, and this is also a compressed tea. And well, I can recognize the character for tea on the top of it, but if Lama was here, she'd tell me exactly what it is. My Chinese reading skills are quite small. I don't know as many characters as she does. She's clearly the expert. Yeah, so if you guys want to know what I should try when we get down to it, this Hekai still has still got more legs.
A lot of bruise on it.
Yeah, no, this one will just go for a long time, and it's actually one of the. I mean, this is not cheap. This is not cheap Hekai material. I wish Hekai. Well, Hekai has some interesting material that's not as cheap, but the really good stuff up in the snake garden is where it's at. So I mean, I think these tea balls. What's that? Yeah, no,
I loved when you shared the video and the pictures.
Yeah, the video from that was that took a lot of work to convince Lamu to go down there. Granted, it was the next year, and thankfully it was the weather hadn't been as good that year, and so it was much drier, and there was much less vegetation. So there weren't as many leafy trees for that giant cobra to hide in. And if for the people in chat who don't know, king cobras routinely get to be about 15 feet in length, and they can lift up almost half of their body length. So I mean, they can literally just stand straight up and look you right in the face, and they've got big heads. Those are big snakes, but thankfully the king cobras are relatively peaceful and not too aggressive towards humans. They kind of want to run away and hide. YouTube decided to hide Michelle's comment about the blueberries for whatever reason. I don't know. Maybe they think there's a euphemism in there or something. I don't know. But yes, the blueberries. She wants me to do the blueberries. The blueberries are not one of the choices that we've got. We've got choice 1, 2, or 3. Those are the ones that we're going to do. So we've got a couple votes for number 1. Couple people are thinking about number 3. 1 vote for number 2. I'll keep a tally. But like I said, this Hawkeye's got a lot to go.
All
right. So what was your first experiences with pu'er tea like? Do you remember your first tea?
Oh, so
tea?
Mine was with Brett. The experience with them. Our friend Diane decided to have a pu'er tasting for her birthday. Walked in
tea experience.
Tea experience. So not really knowing what to expect. And we sit down and he brews a completely fresh pu'er tea made that spring.
A young shung and old style, because this is just after 2000s. You're thinking a lot of bite to it.
Yeah,
a lot.
And that was my first experience. I said, oh, dear goodness, I never want to taste this stuff
So,
again.
picture the first teas we've had with them are these like Alishan, Lishan, high-end stuff,
Right.
really good
Mhm.
Taiwanese teas where it's magical in your mouth, and then you drink a super young Sheng by comparison and think, oh my God, did he get the wrong tea? Is this how it's supposed to taste? This is horrible. Why would anybody want to drink this?
But now, looking back on that, understanding and picking out the different tones and the different tastes in those young shungs, you can really see how it's going to mature. And now that we've been into tea long enough, we've been able to see the transition over the course of 20 years for
Yeah.
some
So you
teas.
take the young Sheng and say, okay, I like this because I know what those tastes are going to be eventually in the future. I can appreciate them now, not just think this is a weird, odd taste.
So you guys also do some interesting stuff like Lamo and I do, where you kind of have special cakes that you only drink on your anniversary. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. Every year we've been doing this for almost 10 years, I guess. We go to our favorite high-end tea shop in Richmond that we've been going to for almost 20 years now. We have a really good relationship with them, and we've gotten some really good aged cakes. So we started making a tradition of saying, these get really expensive. We like to buy young cakes and let them age, but we need some really already matured cakes.
Yeah.
So we'll go and we'll get, one of these $100-$200 cake, something that range, or a little more sometimes, as a once a year special treat for our wedding anniversary. And it'll be our cake that we taste a little bit of. We'll put it back with the other anniversary cakes, and every anniversary we'll take some out.
Mhm.
And occasionally for like a tea festival, we'll take one of our anniversary cakes, and they may be like 20, 25 years old or more. We have at least one from our wedding anniversary of 1992 that we'll take to a tea festival so that we can do it at a tea bar or during a workshop and tell people, hey, normally you won't get a chance to drink a 25-year-old plus aged pu'er because it's so expensive and hard to come across a good example of that. So here's what an aged pu'er is supposed to taste like.
Right.
It's not all the ripe, not all the young, bitey, raw stuff. This is what it can be. This is what people were aiming for originally, with a really well-aged Sheng.
And once again, it's being able to share that experience that we've had shared with us. We've had the privilege of tasting a 1940s Mung Hai once, and that was a very, very we got so tea drunk.
Yes.
But it was wonderful.
That's a really nice thing. It's one of the things about the tea community that I really appreciate. There is a lot of generosity in the tea community. There's a lot of sharing, and it's just more fun to have tea with other people. I mean, as much as I like to sit down and drink tea with myself, it's exponentially more fun when I can do it with other people, because then the memory with that tea becomes tied with those people, and it becomes bigger than just the tea. And I think that's really special. So it's awesome that you guys do so much from the sharing and the educational side.
We have the big advantage of not trying to make a profit off of it. If we were trying to make a profit off of it, we'd have to behave a little differently, be a little less generous. But because we're just doing it for the love of it, it frees us up totally. We can do anything we want.
Yeah, we tried doing it as a business. We gave away more tea than we sold. So we were like, no, we need real jobs, and then this is our hobby.
Right.
So.
It's tough. It's really tough. As somebody who has to make money in the business of tea, it's hard. You have to. There's a definite freedom to not having to worry that you're making a profit at the end of the year. And so that was probably smart of you guys to realize that early on, because otherwise it's like it can be a really expensive hobby is what it ends up being.
We just consider it. This is our good deeds for our community and
philanthropy.
Yeah, basically.
So somebody was wondering about which of your cakes have been stored in your storage the longest, and what are your thoughts on Pacific Northwest aging?
Well, we've been storing them ourselves since we started collecting. So 2002, 2003, I think were our earliest cakes. And most of those were pretty low level, but we started buying some good cakes shortly after.
Yeah.
We, of course, have older cakes that we bought as, teenage cakes where they were partially aged. But as for storing ourselves, almost 20 years.
I think 18 years, because we recently found one thing I've learned early on is always, always, always mark your cake. So usually anything we put in
Yeah.
storage, we put in a paper bag and I write all the information on it. And then if it's multiples of something, or if we've bought a pound of loose tea, then we break it up in smaller bits and try in 5, try in 10, try in 15 years. And we found one that said, try in 15 years. And we're like, oh, we're 3 years late on that one. So I think it was 18.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as the results of aging in the Pacific Northwest, I think I've seen the same results a lot of people have, which is we have some good humidity, fine.
Mhm.
So aging does occur. You don't have to, a pu-erh or something is nice, but it's not strictly necessary for many Northwest collectors.
Yeah.
But it is slow aging, and it's not
Yeah.
necessarily because of the humidity, but I think it's because of the average temperature. It's
Probably.
far lower than in most traditional storage.
And there's a relationship between like temperature and humidity, of course. Things kind of go back and forth. But I'd probably say the same thing. If some of our obviously if some of our teas, which we've maybe stored for a maximum of 7 years, is maybe when we first started storing teas here, 7 or 8 years ago. Wow, that's so crazy to think about that now. Like I remember like setting up like a little pu'er at like the very very beginning. When we had just gotten some That's for people who don't know how we started our business, like Lamo's parents sent us 2 tongs of 1 tong of show pu'er and 1 tong of sheng pu'er for our wedding. They knew I was into tea, and so they mailed those to us, and that's kind of how we started our business. I started doing tea tastings with these 2 cakes, and like selling one, like here and there and stuff. So we. But then, like having my own little like pu'er. I remember like a month later, I was like, ooh, I wonder if they've like changed, tasting them again. And now I'm just like, oh man, shoot, when's the last time I had that cake? Like 5 years ago? It's just kind of it's kind of funny. But in the beginning, I was just like, man, if they just sitting there, just like waiting, just like watching. They were in like transparent boxes in the kitchen. I'm just like, are they doing anything yet? Have they aged?
Most teas, it takes a while. I mean, there were certain teas that we discovered aged more rapidly than others. The xiaoguan, very weedy, like the mushroom tuos that they sell. We found that there was a noticeable difference in a couple of years, which was the first time we had a pu'er and said, oh, wait, look, we can see changes in our own collection. Now, of course, we go through our storage collection and say, man, I forgot we bought this 10 years ago. Let's taste it. Wow, okay, that's changed a lot.
Yeah.
But that's the advantage of just having a collection long enough.
Yeah. Oolong Owl made a note. She remembers having one of your anniversary cakes at the Northwest Tea Festival, and she said it wrecked her to a crazy level of tea drunk that was already on top of her existing tea drunk. And so for Oolong Owl, that says a lot, because that girl can drink her tea. She really can.
Respect her opinion, yeah.
So Oolong Owl has also been on an episode with us, which was fun. And you guys know her, and I think Nicole. Yeah, you guys know Nicole from Tea for Me, Please, as well. She said she's seen you guys down at the World Tea Expo. How many times have you guys been to World Tea Expo so far?
About half a dozen times in various ways and means. Mostly go there just as a fun attendee, just to see what's new in the industry and to just enjoy meeting all the direct vendors from China and elsewhere. Yeah. Went there 1 year to compete on the World Tea Infusion Challenge. I did that once.
I remember that. You got second place, right? Is that it? You got. But you
by 1 point.
By 1 point, but you mentioned.
But we were fine.
You mentioned that you were happy that you didn't get first place, because first place actually came with like tea brewing obligations.
You had to come back and MC the 6-hour-long competition
the next year. Yeah.
And it's like, okay, he's pouring water over the tea leaf.
So on the very last steep, you had it like 1 degree too hot, just so that it would drop you down 1 point, so you didn't have to.
Just want stronger tasting teas.
Yes.
What I think what it came down to.
Yeah.
And from what I understood afterwards, the judges thought I was first place, but then when the total came out, I was second place. But
that's
perfectly fine.
That's fun.
The competitors were all really good people. They were fun.
So for people who don't know what a tea brewing tournament looks like, can you tell us what that entails?
Okay, well, it was a little intimidating because, of course, the World Tea Expo is a tea industry show where you got the people in the tea industry from all over the world coming and sitting in the audience and staring at you, and they know their stuff. So you're sitting up on the stage, brewing 4 different teas for a panel of judges. So you have 3 judges, each of which are, leaders in the industry. The CEO of East Rise Trading Company, et cetera, was on that panel. Plus, there's a technical judge who's back there timing you and saying, if you go 1 second over your time, they'll start deducting 1 point for each second over, and making sure that you're following all the guidelines and rules. And it got to be quite almost harrowing. Plus, then to top it off, they had a TV camera there recording everything, so there was being saved for posterity. So intimidating, but a fun thing to
It was fun.
participate in at least once.
That's that's pretty cool. Yeah, that definitely sounds intimidating. But and they do a lot of stuff like that in China as well. They've got all sorts of like tea brewing tournaments and like pu'er brewing, and sometimes it's so in this case, did everybody had the same tea and the same water? Was that that was the idea?
Water, you had to bring your own tea setup with you to Vegas and kettle, and you weren't allowed to start heating your water until you were on stage, and you had it was a very short time to do all the teas and present them and brew them.
So was it the same ratio? So everyone had the same like grams of tea, or were you able to make that choice?
We were able to make that choice. We were all given a small container of the various teas and questions. There was a dansong, an assam, a an cave-aged kimun that was really good, and a couple others to do. But we had to choose ourselves. What were our ratios? What were our water temperature? What brewing method we were using?
So you were you given the teas like the day before to experiment with on your own?
They gave us, fortunately for us, because some of the teas were a little tricky to do, about 3 weeks before they sent us a sample of each and said, this is what we're going to be doing the day of. So you get a chance to try it once or twice before you come.
Okay.
Yeah, the dancing was probably the hardest. We practiced that. Like I sat there with the timer to every brew down to the second and the temperature down to every degree, trying to get that sweet spot on that. And he did it.
Because dansong is that tea that, if you brew it just absolutely perfectly in this narrow temperature and time range, you have an amazing tea. And if you do it outside of that, it's a good tea. It's a really nice tea, but there's an amazing little narrow spot. I hit it maybe half the time if I'm lucky. My daughter, for some reason, is a dansong, genius. Every time she brews a dansong, no matter what it is, she gets it perfectly every time. I have no idea how.
Yeah, come out here, half asleep, pour a dansong, and it's just like right on.
And she also she actually brews at the tea bar now as well, right? She's become fairly active in the tea festivals.
She's been brewing tea since she was 6 years old.
That's awesome. That's
pretty
cool.
Almost 23.
So did you guys? Was everyone using the same water, or did you have the opportunity to bring your own, or
the same water?
Same water. Okay.
I think someone actually kind of cheated. They brought, some of their own stuff from a local. They didn't have to cart them on the planes because they were a short drive away from the competition. So they brought more equipment than the rest of us.
Yeah, he had the whole setup with plants and everything. So,
gotcha.
Chuck was looking at one little suitcase. So
I ask about the water because next week. Actually, if there's anybody from the Discord chat, you guys know Max and Arby. Max and Arby are going to be on the chat with us next week, next Saturday. Max and Arby from the T Discord, they're going to be on here with us, and they've been working on making really amazing water. So they've actually sent us one of their special water concentrates they called Truth Serum, and so we're going to be drinking the same tea with the same water, the water that they've specifically like mineral fortified to be extra tasty. So I'm super excited about that. I really like the idea of experimenting with water to build a tea bigger than it is. So it's certainly an interesting.
Definitely a huge difference. Water system that adds mineralization back in. We have the volcanic porphyry rocks in it that add just enough minerals that it makes delicate teas notes pop that you just don't.
Yeah, tell us about your guys about your tea there. Are you on community water? Do you have a well? What's the deal out there?
But we're out in farm country at the base of the mountains, and we have really good water. It's a little bit hard, but we run it through a filter system and then add remineralization. And it's perfect for us. We haven't found better for own personal use.
I'm gonna cut in here. Do we have a winner on which tea we're brewing next? Because
So we're
looking
gonna
at the
get
time
started on that. We're gonna get started right there. Are you guys? How much time do you guys have? I don't know. I forgot to ask. What's that?
When we get started drinking, it's hard to stop us, so we have plenty of time.
Cool. Well, let's get started on the next one, which is it came to a tie between 1 and 2. So we need a tiebreaker in the chat, you guys. I'll show them again. Number 1, which is this one here. Number 2, which is this one here. And I actually will let's see here. I'm gonna open them up and just give them a quick smell.
There you go.
Just gonna see what we can do with this here.
They're both over 20 years old, so you can't go wrong with either one of them.
You said they're both 20 years old?
They're both over 20 years old.
Both over 20 years old. Somebody said 1,2. That doesn't work, man.
Don't mix the two. No, different types of tea.
no, these you probably wouldn't want to.
Oh, somebody's switching to 2. It looks like everyone's saying 2. Everyone's saying 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Julian says 1. Let's see. All right. Interesting. It looks like 2. Looks like 2 is where it's at. Let me check this out. See, what did you?
Eggs, so we don't show it. I'll need the tray and.
Let's see here.
And Bean Slayer.
Where's my Bing Slayer?
All right, so we got about 6 grams. Should I use a? Are you guys gonna use a teapot, or are you guys using a gaiwan? What are you guys using?
Teapots work great on this one.
Yep.
Teapots work great on this one. Well, let me see. Since this is an aged thing, I'm gonna grab this guy here. Let me just adjust some things a little bit so I can actually see what's going on. Nope. Pushing the wrong buttons.
Oh, well, you can leave it out then.
Okay.
I'll let you take it over there and.
I will.
Okay.
Right. Give me a sec here. I'm just adjusting a couple things on the stream. All right, we're moving to tea number 2, which actually is number 2. Somebody mentioned tea number 4. There is no tea number 4, buddy.
I think they're hoping for the blueberries again.
Must be. And okay, so 6 grams of that, but this one's maybe a little bit too big. What else do I got that could work? You know what? Let's have some fun. Let's go for a fun pot. So I think this pot will actually work well. So this is the pot I've got right here. This is one of our genshui. It's actually wood fired and Lotus carved, and this is just such a gorgeous little pot. We had a handful of these made for us with one of the potters that we know that was going to be doing a wood fired batch out of genshui. I think this is the right size. We'll see what this does. I'm not getting as much aroma out of the dry leaf. This is exciting. I'm a little stressed now. I should have brewed this 3 weeks ago. Feels like a competition. Feels like a competition here. I will actually. I am going to for the cup. I will use one of my Northwest Tea Festival cups. This is actually a cup that everybody gets from the Northwest Tea Festival. I have boxes of them.
You should put them on there, but we didn't want to.
You guys can hear that. These have a really nice sound to it. Really nice, very high quality tea cup. Yeah. So if you
very good for our festival.
What's that?
They make really good cups for our festival. I have to say.
Oh, they're absolutely.
I love them. Yeah.
Run out of room here. Okay. Let's see. Great. Let's get this guy started. So, did you guys switch pots? You guys want to show everybody what your new teapot is?
Oh, actually, we're using a gaiwan.
Oh, you're doing gaiwan.
Yeah.
Nice springtime peach gaiwan.
Nice.
Not one we often use.
Nice. All right. Let's let this guy. Let's let this sit in here for a minute.
Yeah, it's gotta.
Gonna let it sit in there. Let it soak up a little bit of that humidity. Somebody wants to know if these teas are legal to drink. These are not marijuana teas, which actually technically would be legal in Washington State.
Totally illegal.
Totally legal. Totally legal high. So I actually do have the secret results of the tea here, but I will not open that up until in fact, I don't even probably need to open it up because you guys are right there. You just tell me what it is. But let's see. All right, let's see. Interesting. You guys, yeah, I don't think the people really, I know you've said it, but I don't think the people really realize how many different types of tea you guys actually have. So this could be interesting. That's usually something I try to do anytime I'm giving you guys like a sample or something. I always try and like give you guys something that you haven't really had before. That's it's really hard.
Well, that's the nice thing about tea is that a new year means new tea.
True.
We've had like an example from Spring Cottage, their white tea that they have there. Every year it's different because, so much depends on the weather, how much moisture was in the ground that year, pollination, everything. It's just so many different factors.
And they have a family farm in Puding, so we know it's the same material, the same growth. It's just every year it comes out differently.
Yeah, there's some interesting aromas on this one. I'd say it's it's kind of cool. Slightly smoky. It definitely has some mineral-ish notes to it. This isn't one of your cave stored ones, is it? It smells like a. Does it smell
we
like
don't have a cave yet.
You don't have a cave.
No,
We're working on that one.
It's just a. Yeah, all you need is an excavator. Actually, we've got one of the guys in chat right here, Ziaxio. He's studying mining sciences. He's a geologist with a specialty in working underground. So Ziaxio, maybe that could actually be your specialty, like building people like tea storage caves. That could be your niche. What sort of would it be? Would it be granite? Ziaxio, tell me what you think. Your opinion on what the best sort of a cave would be. Is it what sort of rocks would make the best tea cave? Ziaxio is a lot of fun. He and I chat about rocks and crystals and minerals and stuff all the time. And when I'm in China, I'm always like taking pictures of stuff because Yunnan's just like incredible. Like Yunnan has just so many, just like you just dig out of the ground like the most amazing stuff, just all over the place. Ziaxio is surprised that you don't have a tea cave yet.
No, we talked about it.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because there's like those companies that now like specialize in like building people custom wine cellars. They just basically come into your house. They've got everything all like pre-built and pre-constructed, and they dig out some hole, and it can actually be like in a trap door, like under your like kitchen or something like that, and pop it open and kind of vertical stairs going up and down, or circular stairs. See, I actually think granite would be the safest. So let's check out the wash there. That's a lot of color for just a really quick wash. I'm actually going to give the wash a quick taste here. Check the fairness cup first. Ziaxio thinks sedimentary rocks might tend to have some strength issues. Well, I guess Ziaxio, I was kind of curious about what might offer the best options for the actual tea to take on interesting rocky aromas. Oolong Owl, mystery tea. That's right, mystery tea with the Dawsons. This is exciting. Let's see. Well, it's just the wash. It's still a little light. It's got a really nice color to it. All right, let's see what this smells like. Oh, it smells so good. Really nice mineral notes to it. Intriguing. All right. You guys brewing this one out boiling, or are you tempering it down a little bit?
I did 200 on it.
200. Okay. All right. I'll let that water cool down.
The first rinse, and just to break it up, I did about 195, and then I raised it to 200 to do the brew.
This would handle full boil just fine.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I do. I pretty much I just put everything at full boil. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, then I just brew it for less.
In fact, yeah, I can do that one at boil.
Yes, somebody was saying blind tastings are very interesting. Yes, they are. They are really interesting. And you see these things a lot in the tea markets in China. People will always be bringing something interesting into try or try to like stump the people. Or
Yeah.
I took
love it.
I took one of our I took Jade Rabbit to one of the Jade Rabbit's one of the blends that I was really excited about, just because I had each cake actually blended before it was pressed. So each 200 gram thing, I had the people who were pressing it actually grab the individual parts and pieces and press each cake individually. And so I was very particular about that blend. I took it to a tea shop of like some friends of friends, people who didn't know that I was the one who was working on it. And because if I tell them it's something that I made, they're all just going to say it's absolute garbage, just because that's what they do all the time there. So I specifically told them that I had been working with like a tea master in Munghai, and he had made this blend for us, and they were like, "Oh, okay." And so then they all tried it. They liked it, but what I thought was really interesting is like each one of the people there like swore that the tea was one specific thing. And each one of them was exactly, completely spot on for one of the portions that was actually in that blend. So I was actually particularly impressed. I'm like, well, you guys are all right, and you're all wrong. But like the ones that I was just like, that was actually really impressed me, because then they started arguing. It's like, no, like it's got this bitterness here. This bitterness only comes from like this mountain. I'm like, geez, man, these guys really know their stuff. Man, it has such a gorgeous color. See if anybody can actually see that just for the first wash there. So when's the last time you guys drank this tea, just out of curiosity yourselves?
This one, probably at least a month, maybe almost a year. This particular tea.
Yeah.
Because this is from our collection of, well, this was from before we started doing anniversary cakes, but it's the same sort of quality.
It's really smooth, just super smooth. It just swallows down so easily. Mariano Segovia had mentioned the Crane Gang. I think is Crane Gang like a Discord specific thing where people are only drink Shaoguan? Somebody could explain the Crane Gang for everybody that doesn't understand. That would be great.
Never heard the term, but it makes sense. Got a lot of white crane flows and whatnot flying around.
April says this is the closest we've had to having tea with Chuck and Laurie in over a year. I think April mentioned April Dawn. Do you guys know April Dawn?
Oh yes.
Well. Okay, all right. Okay, so you guys do know Shaoguan Crane Gang. I was right.
Did a tea drop off with them last week. Yeah.
Nice. So they are some tea locals.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is super smooth. It's got such a lot of really nice color in that.
Yeah, definitely got some strong camphor notes to it.
Gemma, what do you think? You want to try a little bit of this? Gemma's sitting over there like watching me like a hawk, waiting till she gets a little bit. This is some really nice stuff.
Yes, you have to share.
So you guys don't have your tea monster handy, do you? You guys, they've got a special tea monster that they bring.
Nest tea.
There you go. There's Nest Tea, you guys. If you guys have actually been to the Northwest Tea Festival or had tea with them, you'll know Nest Tea. And Gemma does as well. So you guys have known Gemma since the first year. You know, you guys, because we always take our kids to the tea festival, carry them around, introduce them to everybody.
Yes, Nest Tea has quite the portfolio with people at the tea festival.
Yeah, that's awesome. How did you like it, Gemma? Is it pretty good? What does it taste like? What are your thoughts? You got any thoughts on this tea, Gemma? It's a mystery tea. She says it's a mystery tea. You're right. Ivory Fluid 86 wants to know how long you guys yourselves have personally stored this tea.
We bought it in, well,
Well, the
do we
notes
give
are on
away,
the bag.
right, but do we give away any of it? Because that's part of the giveaway.
Well, you said it was already like a 20. You said the tea was older than 20 years, so.
We bought it in 2006.
And it was
Okay.
already well aged, at least 10 years old by that time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, clearly this tea has age on it, so interesting. Well, I really don't actually get a lot of time to or a lot of time or opportunities to actually taste aged teas, so I do appreciate the opportunity. Nearly all of our business is focused on what I can actually see and witness, like with my own hands, working with, like tea farmers, like that are actually like processing the tea the way we want them and picking it and things like that. And so tea farmers never have aged teas, like ever. I mean, some of them are starting to like save some, for, posterity and stuff. But even in Kunming and in most of Yunnan, pu'er tea has always been an export. It's always something that somebody else drank. Probably more people probably drink like Longjing in Yunnan than they actually drink pu'er, which is just the funniest thing. And so even in the markets, if you find aged tea in the markets, it was stuff that they actually bought from Hong Kong, or they bought it from Guangzhou. And so there's just so much there's so much confusion about like aged teas, and like was it faked, and did they do this and did they do that, and like was it stored right, and did they you just don't know any of that stuff. And so for the way we've structured our business, it's we don't really focus on the aged teas. And so then when we're over there, we're just drinking like new teas like day in day out. So it's always a pleasure to have the opportunity to drink some aged stuff. Yeah, Ivory Fluid. I'm working on giving the tasting notes. Still just steep number one. It's got a really nice it swallows like super easy. Like you get some teas that like they may like taste really nice in the mouth, but as soon as you actually drink them, it's like fingernails on a chalkboard going down your throat. It's like so this one definitely, that's not a good sign. In China, they talk about the idea of locking the throat or opening the throat. Like a locking throat tea is not a good one. You don't want something that constricts your throat. And this one's super nice. It's like it's in your mouth, and then all of a sudden it's down, and you're like you don't even know that you drank it or not. Just goes straight down. Xiaxio says, tasting note number one, it appears to be a tea of some kind. Xiaxio is in proper mining fashion, he is an actual troll. He is one of the tea trolls in the chat, and I love him. I love him for it. So
are you going to show him the paper yet?
Yes, we could show what it is exactly.
You don't have to do that yet. We can still work on this a little bit. We're good. Let's just I mean, I can tell you right now, I'm not going to be able to specifically guess exactly what it is. I just don't have the experience drinking as much aged teas. But this is certainly nice. In fact, I think the oldest that we sell on the site is maybe like a pu-erh from 2000 or so, and then we've got like a handful of interesting things from like 2003. Mostly stuff from Changtai. We've got a lot of good friends at Changtai, and they sell us interesting stuff from their collection from time to time. Ivory Flute, what does it taste like though? Well, I'm still trying to nail that down. It's like I said, it's got some really interesting mineral notes, but look how thick and dark that is. That's steep number 2. So yeah, it definitely has some camphor aromas as well.
I think this is fun for Chuck because normally we're doing this to him and he's trying to guess teas. So
right,
this is a little break for him.
Yeah, no, that must be nice. Okay, no, that one, this second steep is much thicker. It's got some nice throat cooling stuff. And one of the interesting things about like aged teas, and for the person that asked what does it taste like, it's not necessarily like what it tastes like. It's all about it's the way everything combines together. It's about how it makes you you feel, what it tastes like, like after the taste, like how your throat feels, and like the way everything ties together. It's not, sometimes it's kind of hard to just like nail it down to like one taste thing. It's not dank. It's not dank at all for ivory flute. So it's I wouldn't say it's, well, I mean, if they've had it for a decent amount of time and it's from the mid 90s, it probably wasn't like Hong Kong wet stored. So it certainly doesn't have like that like dank Hong Kong super wetness on it. So that's a good note. I should have mentioned that.
Not that kind of wet.
Yeah, Oolong Owl says Glenn's in the hot seat. Yeah, no, I'm definitely. This is dank Pacific Northwest storage.
Well, Chuck made me promise not to do to you what we did to him. Our friends Ward and Charles at one of our Wacom tea meets several years ago decided to have a brew off. So Charles did the teas Gungfucha style. Ward did English style with a small teapot. And me and Barb picked out the teas, and we proceeded to give him a tea. And Charles and Ward both actually were able to guess the cultivar and what kind of tea it was. And they happened to be Lipton tea bags we broke open and put in other bag. Anyway, so
they did the Lipton challenge on you.
And he got it. We're like, yeah, that's what it says on the box.
And she's mocked me every year since for saying it didn't taste too bad.
Yeah, you said it tasted good.
Well, yeah, a lot of it's just in presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the last tea that I found that was like super interesting that I thought I would send to you guys. You guys know it because I was just chatting it about with you last night. But yeah, for people in the chat, one of the farmers gave us a tea that was made near his village, and it was in the village like across the valley. And he was using this as an excuse to be like, "See, the people over there don't know how to make tea," and so he gave us like a couple 100 grams of it, and it tasted like bacon. It was like bacon, like bitter bacon tea. And I was just like, I remember even just drinking it then. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna bring some of this back for Charles. I think he'll get a kick out of trying this. So I thought that was pretty funny. And honestly, like I think it probably came down to sometimes the farmers, if they don't have enough tools, they'll actually just use the same wok that they cook pork in to actually make the tea. So quite likely it actually was it was not halal. It was probably pork infused bitter shung pu'er, which is not something that we could really sell, but interesting for an experience. Oh, Zioxio said he's going to take away all my metalworking tools if I don't come close on guessing what this is. Well, that's going to be that might be.
We
might
gave
be a
you
little
a
awkward.
hard one. So.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I appreciate the opportunity to try and taste new stuff.
We start giving him some clues, or show him at least the wrapper.
Well, the wrapper gives it all away.
Well,
but,
true.
No, you don't have to show the wrapper yet. I'll just keep it just smells so nice though. Well, I mean, if showing the wrapper is a hint, then it probably is, probably more of a. Well, I mean, if it's well, you said like only one of these three is pu'er. I'm guessing this one probably is the pu'er. So if it probably is pu'er, and we know it came from the mid '90s, there weren't a lot of small production stuff. So this is probably a one of the Dai productions from that time. But I don't really know how to nail it down any further based on the wrapper. But let's do one more tasting with this one. I'm into steep number 3 with this. Got to remember to save a little bit of this for Llama. Llama had to go into the office today, so she didn't have a chance. So I'll make sure that she tries a little bit of this. And yeah, you guys gave all sorts of fun extra stuff, so we'll have to try some of that as well. East European collusion. Yeah, maybe it was bacon. Maybe those farmers across the valley indeed don't know how to make tea. That's certainly possible as well. Maybe they make it out of pork. Yeah, I'm highly likely that they actually had pork in the production, which isn't super isn't really the best. Excuse me.
Mm.
Look at that.
Having it build up in the mouth.
It's nice
now.
and dark.
Oh.
So do you guys just have just the one cake of this?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you
This
for.
was something we spent some money on before we were really, able to spend lots of money on tea, or before we really were knowledgeable enough to know what we were doing. So this came from our most reliable source, the person that we were with at the time.
We lucked out.
Yeah, it was one that he said, this is really good. You should probably get it while you still have some left. And okay, yeah, we liked it. It tasted very similar to this 15 years ago. It was very well aged.
How does the energy hit you guys? I'm feeling just a little bit, but I don't really find it too strong. But I get some nice some little nice buzziness up in my head.
This is one that can definitely make your tea drunk if you drink too much of it. It will.
Well, shoot,
Give
you
you
should
a
steep
bit of
it
a
longer. So how would you guys, I mean, there's a lot of conversation in the West on, like what tea energy actually is. When people ask that question to you guys in an educational setting, like what is tea energy? How do you guys usually describe that?
Try to describe it mostly the way that Chinese would describe it. The movement of energy within your body. I don't like to take the Western approach and say, oh, it's just a caffeine effect or an L-theanine effect. It's an experiential thing. So describe it in the Chinese experiential way. I feel the qi moving up, so I'm feeling the cooling effect, or I'm feeling the qi moving down. I'm feeling energetic. I'm feeling euphoric. There's definitely qi effects that you can attribute to chemical causes, but it's easier not knowing. I mean, there's so many compounds in a good tea, especially in aged tea.
Yeah.
I'm not going to take the completely scientific approach because each tea is going to be so unique. Unless I analyze this specific tea, I can't give you an answer except to say, here is how it works for me experientially.
Here, let me give you a little more Gemma.
Musical.
Yeah, I mean, I spent, like most of my teens and 20s, like extremely heavily caffeinated on coffee and, Red Bull and Mountain Dew. And I never got chi energy from any of that. I mean, I would certainly get like a caffeine buzz, but you can take one sip of a tea that has like a high tea energy in it, and like immediately like feel like a reaction in your body. So it's more than just like caffeine overdose, like is so easily described. But that said, I don't know if I really have the vocabulary or the understanding to really know like how and why it does what it does. But it's certainly there. What did you think of this steep, Gemma? You think it tastes pretty good? All right. Well, there we go. There's my guess. Mid 90s, some mid 90s Munghai production. So I like how.
That's an interesting guess because we don't collect a lot of Dai products. We avoid the mainstream big collectors, both because they're very pricey, because they're big collector's item. They're more pricey. They're not necessarily bargains, because people are looking for those. And we want the experiences, the oddities. So we go mostly for small production cakes and bricks as much as we can find.
Yeah.
This particular one does happen to be Munghai.
It does.
And we have here, let's see if we can.
Oh, look at that. What have we got?
It is a night recipe. But it was somewhere between 90 and 95, so 25 to 30 years old.
Okay.
And we bought it, like I said, 2006 for $95 at the time for the
That's
brick.
a brick, 250 grams?
300 gram.
300 grams, okay.
Slightly odd size. And very little information on it other than that. It's at Munghai. The recipe is 9062.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Munghai definitely with a 2. And
whew.
Kind of
off the hook a little bit.
We were off the hook also because at the time we bought this, we were buying it from Spring Cottage, and the owner up there at that time didn't speak an immense amount of English, and we knew very few Chinese tea terms. So our communication was mostly related to, hey, we like this tea, and he couldn't tell us much detail about it because he didn't understand what we were asking, and we weren't understanding much of his answers. Yeah. Like, what does that mean? If he sold us Lao Banjian at that time, we would have no idea what he meant by Lao Banjian. But now, of course, we would. So our information we wrote on our earliest cakes we bought from him are kind of minimal. So we have to rely upon the tea itself to tell us.
Well, maybe there's some people in the tea chat that might be able to know some more about the specific details of that. I am not an expert in like aged teas or the different productions from the different places. Like I said, mostly because that's not how we've structured our business. But yeah, if there's anybody from the discord.gg/tea in here, hold that up close to the camera again, and let's see if we can get a nice. It was a little bit pixelated on the last one there. Maybe we can get somebody to jump into the chat and give a closer identifying. All right, move it up just a little bit higher there. Is that yeah, just hold it right there and don't move. Okay, that's a good one. The 9062. There we go. All right, I think that's pretty good. Somebody can pause that and try and figure out what it is. Zealousy says a quick Google search reveals 9062 is a Sheng Shou blend. That's interesting. Because I know some.
This is very Sheng to me.
Yeah, well, it's interesting what can be what can be done with some of the Sheng Shou blends, and even what the actual ratio is. I mean, somebody could take like fresh Sheng and then at 90% and then toss in just like 10% into it, just to kind of sometimes to kickstart that early fermentation. I don't know, they've done all sorts of experiments with that. We actually pressed a cake. I've got it down. Do I have it downstairs? Where did I actually press that cake? So I got a cake that I pressed downstairs. I was trying to do some interesting experiments on like tasting set options, and so the cake is actually 50-50 Sheng and Shou pressed like right on the line, and just trying to see if it could work. And it's a little bit tricky because Sheng and Shou actually press differently. Shou needs to actually be wet before the steaming, and Sheng doesn't. It technically worked, but it just didn't really hold together super well. Interesting. Let's see.
The irony is we actually like Sheng Shou blends when it's loose out. We sometimes run across them, or used to run across them in some Asian grocers, but they're really hard to find those blends these days.
So,
but one we found locally in Bellingham way back when, and we bought every box they had of it, and they've never restocked, unfortunately, was this particular thing, which, it says on it, black tea, recognize the character, but said that's pu-erh, we got to buy that. Brought it home, and it was a really good blend of Sheng and Shou. We could tell right off from it. We're using it to store other tea mostly, but we always, of course, we look in the oddest niches. We buy tea everywhere.
Yeah.
So every grocer we find, Asian grocer that we've never been to, we look in and say, hey, do they have anything? Maybe some pu'er that's been sitting on the shelf for 20 years that they've never sold.
And we did that once. We went into one of our local Asian grocers, and we're looking at all these birds' nests on the shelf, and we're like, $2.61. Huh. And we bought one, brought it home, and looked up the information, realized they'd been sitting there for quite a while being aged. And
15 years old.
Yeah.
They're selling them for $2 each.
So we went back and bought all the rest.
Yeah, no, this is definitely a nice tea. So yeah, if you guys paid like $95 for this, like 18 or so years ago, before you guys were really into it, that was probably quite a purchase. I remember like the first cake of tea that I actually purchased, like I just thought it was just too expensive. So I asked the guy if he'd sell me half of it, and so he's like, sure. He just snapped it in half like that and sold me half of it for like like $40 or something like that. So now I mean, I don't know. This tea's probably worth far more than that now.
I think back to a lot of the cakes I saw on the walls of shops in the early 2000s, when I thought $100 was way too much to spend on a cake, and thinking I would love to go back and shop those walls now.
Yes.
See what's there.
If I could go back, if I could just go back in time. Yeah, that's the. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Oh, there was one of our favorite shops where we would frequent there quite frequently, World Pu'er, and went there one weekend, bought a bunch of tea, and then we came home, we're like, wish we would have bought some of this or some of that. We'll go back in a couple weeks. Went back in a couple weeks, the shop was gone.
Oh.
Emptied. And since then we were able to find some of the teas from that shop at the other shops in that same shopping mall.
This was in Richmond, yeah.
Because apparently they just sold off their stuff, and
the owner had to go back to China for some reason, but the place we've been going to at least once a month for years just It's gone.
Oof.
Well, that's how I got this
So,
tea
yeah,
table. It's basically the same thing, like a little Chinese shop, like going out of business in a month or two, selling everything, and then I just kept going back until like the very last day when I'm like I knew that they were flying out the next day, and I'm like, well, I got a truck and I got cash. Like, what can we do? And so I was pretty excited about that. But so for people who want to do or experience aged pu'er teas, but don't really have like Chinese markets near them, what do you guys suggest for people?
come to one of our workshops.
Go to a tea festival. Yeah, find someone who can actually taste it with you. I have a hard time buying really expensive aged stuff online unless it's from someone that I've already had experience with, like yourself or my current other sources, where I know if they're saying this is a 20-year-old cake and it's good quality, it is. Because I don't want to spend $200 on something blindly until I've tasted it, which is why I love the experience when we buy our anniversary cakes. Let's go to a shop, let's sit down, drink for a couple hours, tasting different expensive teas and find one you like and buy it. But how do you do that if you're nowhere near such a source? And most people are not near such a source. You can take people's recommendations. You can buy a sample size. Certainly a lot of people buy samples, but it's still hard to know when you buy a sample, is this the same as the cake I'll be getting? Am I brewing it right? Am I getting the taste I expect right? There's no one there to explain that to you and give you some interaction. It's tough. So yeah, I say, find a festival, find a local tea club, find someone who has some that can share that experience with you before you buy it, if at all possible.
And the other thing too, I know we ran across when we first got into tea, we don't look like your typical tea nerds. And so we go into shops and we'd say, hey, we're interested in, an aged pu'er. And we were told multiple times, I'll let you sample this, but you better buy the cake.
If you like it, yes.
If you like it.
We won't break open this cake unless you say that you will buy it if you really like it.
And that can be kind of scary. We jumped in and said, sure, why not? Okay,
and you have to convince some people, you're not just a tourist coming in to take a taste of tea and leave. And you've ruined a little bit of their stock that they now have to dedicate to tasting.
Yeah.
That's that can be a little bit daunting.
Particularly if you can sit down and start saying some of the words like, I want something from Nanoshan, a Shangpu from Nanoshan, and they look and go, oh, okay, you know a little bit about what you're talking about. Sure, you're not just this tourist looking at, oh, look, there's a quaint Chinese tea shop, and you're coming in just to browse and waste their time.
Yeah. That's I mean the same thing happens in China. I'll go into some tea shop and they're all like, if it's somebody that I don't know, then they think it's so funny. They're like, have you ever had tea before? And I'm like, you mean like from a tree? And they're like, yeah. And sometimes I can kind of like play around with them for a little while, and then eventually they're like, wait a minute, like you know more about tea than you're letting on. I'm like, well, maybe a little bit, but.
World Tea Expo talking to Chinese vendors where they don't think I know much about tea, and then someone else will walk up to the table and look at the cakes of tea on their table, and I start explaining it to the other customer, and the tea person behind the counter says, you know a lot about this, because I'm telling them how to store it, how much it's worth, what style it is.
They love him at tea festivals. He translates well.
That's awesome. So yeah, another thing that you'll often find, especially like now that like pu'er tea is like pu'er is like just beyond popular in China and super cool and super trendy, is everybody wants to get in on the pu'er tea game. Everybody in China and everybody in China just assumes that hey, I'm Chinese. We've been doing tea for like 4,000 years, or whatever. And it's not 4,000 years, but that they just assume that they automatically know everything about tea just because they're Chinese, and so they'll start like a tea business, and they really may not know actually anything and may not even have a palate for it, but they got enough money to like start a shop and open it up. And we went into one shop in Munghai, and it was one of those like very like ostentatious and gaudy with like the giant like carved chairs and super big tables, like just gorgeous space. And went in and we're talking to the guy, and like talking to him, he's just like, yeah, I've been in the tea business for 6 months now. And we're like, oh, okay. And he's just like, yeah, I used to deliver furniture to Laobanjiang and became friends with the farmers. And I thought, hey, I can do this tea business thing. We're like, oh, okay. Well, wow me, show me what you got. Man, his teas just tasted so bad. Like they were so bad. And like even his friends were like kind of having like difficulty like drinking some of these teas. And he's just like really proud of it. And I'm like this is it. This is the best. He's like, yeah, this is good. And I'm like, I don't really know if this is what I'm looking for. And he's like, well, you don't know anything about Lao Benjang. And like the eyebrows on his friend like went up, and he's just like, it's just this really funny experience where like nobody would tell the guy that he had no idea what he was doing, but it's just...
Well, Glenn, that's what you need to do is start some tea tours.
No, the tea tour thing is,
I'll go with you. How about tea shopping?
It is so it is an insane amount of work. We've looked into it, and we've flirted with the idea of it, and we've like ran the numbers and tried to do this stuff, and what it comes down to is like when we're actually there, like we're working like 24/7 for like 3 months straight, and to actually like take like a sizable chunk out of that, like a 1 or 2 week period, is it just wouldn't work out. Like we keep thinking about it, and people keep asking us about it, and it's just I don't know, maybe at some point in time in the future, but it's well, clearly it can't even happen right now because of all the like the COVID and the restrictions and stuff, but it's a lot of work, and I think there's a certain glamorization of the tea industry and Yunnan and what goes into it, that it sometimes I think it may be a little awkward for people to actually realize what things actually are like there. Even things like the restrooms. You gotta even like that. I mean, like the eating situation and stuff. There's a lot of things to take into account. And like that's my like absolute like horror scenario. Like I get a group of like 10 people out in the middle of nowhere, and then somebody just has like an absolute panic attack, or they didn't have like the right food production, or somebody's got some interesting like food allergy or something, and then like the farmers like swear that they don't have that in the food, but then they don't actually like know, because they'll just tell you anything, and then somebody has, I don't know, like I have all these like nightmare scenarios in my head about how everything could go like completely wrong with a group of strangers literally out in the middle of nowhere. But
well, if you ever need any guinea pigs, I mean, if it gets too busy, just drop us off at a tea shop, and we'll still be there when you get back.
We'll be in the coming tea market.
So you guys know the Goos, Dick Goo, right? Is that how I pronounce his last name? Gue, Richard, and what's his wife's name? They're always at the Northwest Tea Festival. You've probably seen them before. They just messaged us like randomly and like, hey, we're gonna be in Kunming in a week. Like, you guys want to hang out? I'm like, oh, okay. Like, sure. And so basically we did the same thing with them. Like, well, we got a bunch of stuff to do today, but we'll drive you over and drop you off at like this like massive like Kunming Tea Festival that just happens to be going on today. Like, I'll point you in the right direction. Here's a couple words you need to do, and just go have fun. And so then they did, and we met them like 6 hours later. Like, we had a ton of fun. I'm like, that's great. And then they went on to the next city. So that can totally work. If you guys ever actually find yourself in Kunming during when we are actually there, yeah, we'll take care of you for sure. But yeah, I'll show you the nice hotel right next to one of the markets, and just walk over there every day, and just. You could easily spend a week like bumming your way through the tea markets of Kunming, and or if you ever found yourself down in Munghai during tea picking season, Munghai is like spring break for tea nerds. It's like I don't mean that term lightly. I mean, it is like almost like a 24-hour party of just like tea, and then alcohol, and then karaoke, and whatever else goes with that, with a bunch of tea drunk guys that left their wives back to run their tea shop. So Munghai's a tea party, but you could just walk into any shop at any point in time. They're brewing tea all night long. You just walk in and sit down and be like, hey, you guys got any tea to drink? They're like, sure, try this. And it'll be interesting stuff, interesting experiences. So tell us about Reddit. Did you actually start RT? Did you actually start the RT sub? Are you the
the RT community and Reddit's been around for quite a while.
Yeah.
And although I'm currently the senior moderator there, there's a team of about 6 or 7 of us that moderate it.
Yeah.
And I've been on Reddit for like 8 or 9 years, maybe longer.
Longer.
And I'm one of those people who likes to help people when they're asking questions. A lot of the newbies coming in, asking the same questions over and over again. I'm game to answer them instead of just pointing them to the fact. And so I'd been doing this for years when someone from the moderation team at that time said, hey, you're very helpful and you're always on here. So do you want to be a moderator? So, okay, yeah, I'll join the moderator. And over time, there's a bit of attrition because it's a lot of work to moderate.
It's a lot of work.
And so, the most senior ones eventually left the team, and we kept getting new moderators on. And now I'm the most senior one there, and I have no idea how. And we have this community of what, 250,000, almost 300,000 people on there.
I think it's like it's almost 350.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is.
It's a lot.
When I joined, it was under 100,000,
Yeah.
and people, when we reached 100,000, we did, hey, let's do a free giveaway for the 100,000th post of that year for 100,000 people or something like that. And we did, and that was fun. But now it just keeps growing too fast. There's a lot of people in the team these days.
It does grow really fast, and that's I've moderated small subs before. I mean, I used to do I think I found one of my alts founded the Barcraft sub back when I was working in esports and doing stuff like that. And man, the whole moderation game is just tedious. It's just a lot of work. Even if you have like a finely tuned like auto moderator and you've got like an active crew and stuff. I mean, it's a 24/7 job. And you mentioned the thing about you don't want to just point people at the FAQ. Well, that's an interesting thing because Reddit, by its nature, conversations just don't last very long, and so it's not like some other forums where you've got like a running conversation that may be going on for multiple years that people have been super active in. Like Reddit conversations, like boom, like they come and go and they pop up, and then they can be, it's almost impossible to find them even like 12 hours later, especially on a really big sub. So it really takes people that actually are patient to be able to answer like the exact same questions again and again and again.
But about the tea community on Reddit as the tea community in real life is people tend to be extremely polite and helpful. People love sharing their tea experience with other people. We don't have a lot of mean, nasty posts, people trolling, whatnot. The worst we ever see every now and then is someone making a joke about coffee or something.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's a great community. People are friendly, and in real life, the tea community is why we're still involved. People are wonderfully cooperative, friendly, neat people, no matter what type of people, what their persuasions are in life, politically, religious, whatever. When it comes to tea, there's connections, and people are so great about it. And in the tea industry, I mean, I've never seen an industry of any sort where people are less competitive and more cooperative. If we're at a trade show and someone hasn't received their shipment of tea that they were expecting from overseas so they could set up their booth, the other nearby vendors say, here, we'll help you. We'll put something in your booth. We'll help man it. Go find your tea. It's so cooperative. It's so nice. It's so friendly. It's a real fresh breath of air compared to most of the world.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I have this conversation with a lot of people that are like, oh man, like Reddit, like, I don't want to go on Reddit. And I'm like, you know what? Like, I really consider like the tea community on Reddit just to be entirely separate from the rest of it. I mean, there is a lot of incredible toxicity on Reddit, and I almost exclusively just sit in pu-erh and RT and maybe a handful of like the little related like tea subs and stuff like that. And it's great. Like every now and then you'll get somebody who kind of does like a little bit of a trolling thing, but even the people that troll on the tea subs are passionate tea people. Like they actually troll at a fairly high level. Like the amount of like trolling humor they put into it. Like clearly like this person like really actually knows what they're doing, and they're just out there having fun. I've found like very few like people that were actively malicious in RT or pu-erh and stuff like that, which is really, really refreshing. I've from coming from like an esports background, like it's just so toxic, and I'm just so happy that the tea industry in general